Happy to have my next guest back on the show. You know who it is, GM3, Gerald Meerschaert, who will be back in action on April the 8th at UFC 287 when he meets Joseph Pyfer. Gerald, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. How you been?
I'm good. I'm good. I appreciate you coming back on and giving me a few minutes of your time today. A lot to get to with you here today. But first, I want to start with Brendan Allen's big win. That was a huge win over Andre Muniz. He did pretty much exactly what he told me he was going to do leading up to that fight. And he really cemented himself as a legitimate contender in the division. How impressed were you with what he went out there and did?
I was just as impressed as everybody else, but not in the sense that it surprised me. You know what I mean? I knew, I've known for a long time. I've got to train with him before he was in the UFC, and I had known that, I've seen him from when he has been developing these skills to when he has had them, and for some time now, he's had the ability to do that, and it was just nice to see someone that I've seen come from a regional scene up into the UFC really realize his full potential and showcase that for everybody in a live fight. And that's, what better thing could you ask for, especially against a ranked opponent and your main event short notice? Like it was a perfect storm for him.
I think it's safe to say that this was like his coming out party, right? Like all the hardcores out there knew just how good he was, but this win, I feel like really just obviously elevates him. What is his ceiling, Gerald? Like, how good do you think he can be? I mean, he hasn't even hit 30 yet, so his prime years are still ahead of him.
Yeah, I mean, he's still got a lot of time to develop. I always joke and say like he might end up being a 205er because like he's a big kid. You know what I mean? He's not small for 185 and like his reach isn't that far off either. So whether he does or doesn't move up, I think he everybody wants to get the belt. I think he has just as good a chance as anybody that's ranked to go up there and get his shot. Obviously we got some guys got to figure out their stuff first before anybody at middleweight can really get a belt. But I think I think for sure, before the end of his career, we'll see him fight for a title.
Yeah, that's very exciting. And obviously, as you mentioned, you've been training with him for a while. Used to be at Rufus Sport. Now you're down in Florida. You're at Kill Cliff. That's where Brendan is as well. Are you there full time now, or are you still training at Rufus Sport from time to time?
I'm there full time. Obviously, I'm still living in Wisconsin for right now, so like I come down for camps. I'll be here. I've been here for a few weeks already, and I'll be here up until and through the fight. So I'll be dialed in and ready to go. But as time moves on, might end up in Florida. I don't know, but for sure, I'm going to be doing my camps down here full time.
And is this just a case where I know like Rufus Sport has got a lot of elite fighters, but they're smaller. There seems to be a lot bigger guys, down there in Florida at Kill Cliff. Is that the reasoning why you made the transition there?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like it's nothing. I have nothing bad to say, and no ill will or anything like that with anybody at Rufus Sport. I'm on good terms with Duke Rufus and Scott Cushman and all the coaches. I still, keep in contact with the guys there regularly. It was just something where, gyms go through ebbs and flows, right? And they've got they still got some high level smaller guys, and I'm still close with them, but yeah, I need bigger bodies to work with. And I think, even out of the new crop of guys, the biggest one's maybe a 55er. And then there's a couple of guys that are, a little bit different trains because like Jordan Newman's still down there, but he's kind of like doing something not separate, but he's also running a wrestling academy and doing a lot of other training. So, you know, and that's just one other person. But at this point in my career, I need like a bunch of different looks, um, and just more people to like keep the eyes fresh, keep that body weight going, like the strength wise, and it's just a little bit easier. So I would not be the fighter I am today had I not been at Rufus Sport for so long. But just at this point in my career, I had to find somewhere with bigger bodies, and Killcliff fit really well.
Have you been working with specific training partners at Kill Cliff to get you ready for Pyfer?
I wouldn't say specific ones. There's plenty of guys that are righties. There are plenty of guys with good hands and good striking. Um, you know, it's not bad to have a mix sometimes because there's nothing that you're going to see usually from a fighter that you're going to hear about that you won't see on film, right? So no matter what they do in the gym or what they say they're working on, it's very rare that someone adds a new wrinkle into their game that hasn't shown itself before, unless it's a very specific stylistic matchup. Um, but that being said, it can't happen. So it's good that I get all these different looks. You know, guys that some guys are more strikers, some guys are more grapplers, some guys are lankier, some guys like to fight inside. But anytime I'm working with anybody, I'm always thinking about what can I do that's going to work against my opponent, even if it doesn't necessarily work that good against them. I'll just, try to jam a square peg in a round hole and figure it out and make it work because I know on fight night that's what's going to work for me.
Have you noticed? I mean, obviously at Killcliff, there's so many elite fighters, and it just seems like it's growing quite a bit. The gym that is. Have you noticed? Is there a lot more guys trying to get in? And if so, how do they decipher? Who's coming and who can't come?
Honestly, I have no idea because I'm still relatively new. I did my one camp. We're still on like the front half of camp number two, so I haven't been around long enough to know how many people are trying to like really join or come in and out. There's definitely like their base team that I've gotten very familiar with, and they're all really good guys. But it seems like there's always a couple guys like come trying it out and doing whatever. But it's like I just haven't been here long enough to know whether or not, they're just visitors or they're actually trying to get on the team. I have no idea.
Okay, fair enough. Let's talk about your last fight. It was all the way back in August, round three guillotine choke win over Bruno Silva. Were you hoping to take this much time off since your last fight?
No, absolutely not. It was kind of an unfortunate circumstance where I was scheduled to fight in February. I got down here. I was ready to start camp and get ready for the February fight, and they had me fighting Abus Magomedov. Um, and then they called me and said, "Hey, he's having visa issues. He can't get into the States for whatever reason. Uh, we want to move the fight to March in London." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Like, do I still have a spot in February? Like, I'm already down here. Do I still have a spot in February if I say no to moving it in March?" And they're like, "No, it would just be like, that wouldn't be guaranteed." And I was like, "Well, okay, this dude fought in the exact same arena in the exact same country and city 4 months ago. Yeah, let's do it. I'll move it." So I had to like rearrange all my Airbnb and stuff and flights, and like I kind of got screwed on the rental car and all that good stuff, which again, this is all on me. I chose to go somewhere for fight camp. That's, it is what it is. Then I get, and I fly back home because, training camps like, 8 weeks or so. I'm not going to stay out there from February and like that much longer into March because I had just gotten there. Like I was there before February, actually, like way before. So I would have been in Florida for 3 months if I did fight in March. Then I got another phone call once I got home, and I was only going to be home for like a couple weeks anyway. And they said, "Hey, he can't fight in London either. So like you don't have a fight right now. You're back to square one," which was really frustrating because it's like, okay, like how is he still having visa issues if he just fought there? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it's him or was within his control. I don't know. I have no idea. But for me, it was very frustrating. Then Joe Pyfer actually DM me on Instagram, very polite, you know, nothing but respect. He just reached out offering to fight me, and I had reached out to my manager and he reached out to his, and I was like, "Hey, he's down, I'm down, let's make something happen." And we ended up getting on the April card, which is, a lot of eyeballs going to be on that card. And, I would have liked to have fight earlier, but everything happens for a reason and it's a great card to be on. But one small thing for that story too, funny enough, I see Abus not too long ago. Now he's scheduled to fight in Vegas in March. And I'm like, what the heck happened to the visa issues? So again, I'm not blaming him personally. I don't, who knows what's going on over there because like he's living in Germany and he's actually from I think Russia or Dagestan or something, and maybe that complicated it. But that was kind of frustrating. Where it was like, man, I wanted to fight earlier too, but it is what it is.
If you go in there on April the 8th and hand Pyfer the third loss of his career, is that fight with your originally scheduled opponent in February? Is that one you'd like to have next?
I would like to get somebody ranked, or somebody with a big following, or a bigger fight, something. That doesn't mean necessarily that I'm saying no. It's just that he's also only got one fight in the UFC, and that's a couple people brought that up, as like, even after my last fight in the press conference, Petrosky had called me out a couple times, and I like kind of return called him out back, and they were like, "Well, don't you want somebody higher? He's only got 3 fights in the UFC, and then here I am. I got put up against 2 guys that have only had one UFC fight, for what it's worth." Now, at least Piper, I think he's got more of a backstory. People are familiar with him. He's been on the Contender Series. I think he's got a pretty good sized following, like in the States especially. But after everything goes according to plan this fight, and I put on a great performance, I'd like to fight somebody ranked. But if not, just give me somebody with some pop. Give me somebody that we can get some hype behind, and that'll be fun.
Obviously, Joseph Pyfer, this is a guy that has got a lot of steam behind him, right? He's a young guy. I feel like a lot of people say his ceiling is very high, but Gerald, you're a guy that's been in the UFC for a long time now. You're a veteran if there ever was one. Do you almost feel like you're being disrespected a little bit to fight someone that's so new? Like, should you be fighting someone that has a lot more fights in the UFC, or is that not the case?
I don't feel that way. This is kind of like par for the course as far as like matchups I get. I either get, I usually get like the next big thing. You know what I mean? So I'm not really surprised by that. Uh, on all our contracts, we get paid to fight, not to fight a specific person. So our pay doesn't go up or down based off of the exact person we fight. It's if we win and stuff. Obviously, if you get to a title shot or something, or maybe you like get top 5, then you could like renegotiate. But there's nothing on my contract that says I got to fight a guy with X amount of UFC fights. It's just you fight the person we tell you to fight, and we pay you this amount. So everyone in the UFC is tough. Doesn't matter if you got one fight or a bunch of fights. Would I like to fight someone ranked? Fight for the belt? Absolutely. But in order to do that, you got to win consistently. And especially in the first half of my UFC career, it just hasn't been consistent enough, and that's on me.
How many fights do you have left on your current deal?
I just signed a new deal actually, and so now I got a 6 fight deal. So that was nice to see that they want me around for a while, obviously, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And even though I'm not ranked, I got nothing but good things to say about my new position on the contract.
When did you put pen to paper?
It would have been before the end of the year, because we had that inked for the fight that I was supposed to have in February. So
Okay, that's great. Congratulations. That's definitely
thank
huge.
you.
6 fight deal, so you'll be around for a while. I want to go back. I glossed over it a little bit. We talked about that win over Bruno Silva. Again, that was in August, round 3 guillotine choke win. How happy are you with that performance? Is there anything that you can kind of take from make yourself a better fighter moving forward?
Yeah, no, I think I did well. I think stylistically, I chose the right tools for the opponent. Um, there's a couple little minor things I maybe could have done better, but it's pretty solid performance. And Bruno Silva's a tough guy. I saw a lot of people after the fact talking about, did he have a bad weight cut? Was something going on? You know what I mean? But ultimately, none of that stuff really matters. Like it hasn't ever mattered for me. It's not going to matter for him. And it's just you got to do the best you can with what you got. And I look more of it as like, you know, I don't know what he had going on in his personal life or anything else, right? But just based off of like the fight itself, that was one thing I noticed, and why I kind of like did a lot more slipping and sticking and moving is if you stand there and fight with him, kind of like how Pahea did, if you like, we're gonna plant our feet and we're gonna swing, he's good there. He can return fire, he can take damage. But if you hit him and move, he tends to like plant his feet and hinge at the hip, which means it's really hard for him to catch up to you. So I just tried to peck away at him and make him swing and miss, and to make him tired. And that's I feel like that's more what people saw when they're like, "Oh, he's out of shape." It's like, no, he's not out of shape. It's just really, really tiring when you got somebody like punching you in the face and you throw all your body weight into a couple punches and you just hit nothing but air. That's really exhausting.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, it was a big win. Would you say that was the most important win of your career? I mean, obviously the last fight, the most recent one is the most important one, right? But like for everything that you've been through, with the Chimaev fight, then losing to Jocko, getting that win over a quality opponent in Silva, was that just the most important win that you've had so far?
I think so, and especially for this point in my career, because like you said, pretty much since I had the Heinisch and the Hamzat fight, pretty much everybody's like, well, if he goes to the ground, he might win, but I think he'll get knocked out. So like everybody just assumes that like because I fought two tougher guys that, for better or worse, landed a good shot on me, that all of a sudden I have no chin or I'm just gonna get knocked out and I'm not good on the feet. And again, ignore anything else that would have been going on because like ultimately it doesn't matter. But that's where I had to show like, look, I can fight. Well, and not only that, but I fought Muradov too, who's another guy that was supposed to be another elite striker, and I stood toe to toe with him. So it's good to remind people, even after like I went on a little 3-fight win streak. I had a loss to Jocko, and then to get back on to my winning ways and not like have another hiccup where it's like, you win a couple, lose a couple. I want to stay more consistent. And I think the move to Killcliff is going to help that. And I think, just using all the tools at my disposal is going to help that too.
Last time I did speak with you was prior to you fighting Hamzat Chimaev. I just wanted to ask, how difficult that was to get through, because I know a lot of trolls and people talking junk online. I'm sure you don't pay a whole lot of attention to that, but like mentally, was that tough to just kind of pick yourself back up and move forward?
Uh, I mean, not really. It wasn't like fun. Anytime I have lost, I haven't been like in a great headspace about it, but you just concentrate on what you can control, you know what I mean? And the thing that was more took more willpower than anything is I took a long break after that, and I didn't even like really do any real kind of training, like martial arts training, for probably about 3 or 4 months. Because I was like, I'm gonna lift, do cardio, I'm gonna let my brain heal, let my body heal a little bit. And I think that really, really helped me. I think I had been fighting too often and like not uh, taking enough breaks to like recover. And I don't mean breaks like train real hard, then go on vacation and then come back and train real hard. But I mean like, I do all these camps in a row and I'd take a week maybe and like kind of take a week off, but then I go right back into like full bore training as opposed to like easing my way back in. And I think that helped a lot, and just, spending time with the family and just letting everything get back to normal. But as far as like the trolls and everything else, as soon as like all that happened, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get some shit on the internet for this. And kind of like how I figured, now everybody that picks and makes the odds are like, oh, he'll probably get knocked out just because I got knocked out by what everybody else says is like one of the best fighters ever. It's like it's not like, oh, you got caught by a really good guy, but you're actually a good fighter. It's like, oh, you got caught by a guy who's really good and we think is like the next coming of Jesus, but that means you suck somehow. So, but I anticipated that, so it was all good.
Yeah, well, I mean, as we both know, like a lot of these guys that are out there trolling and talking junk, they're guys that have never been in a fight or wish they could be in your shoes fighting in the UFC. So you just block all that stuff out and focus on you, man. Well, let's transition to 287, man. What a card this is! It's in Miami, Florida. So obviously, with you training at Kill Cliff, it's got to be a little bit easier for you to be in that state. How far is Sanford, or excuse me, Killcliff from Miami?
Maybe an hour or two. I'm not entirely sure, but I'll be able to drive down there, so it won't be a problem. No flights or nothing for me, which is nice. I'm definitely gonna still stay at the host hotel and kind of, do the whole same fight week routine, if you will, just to keep everything consistent. But yeah, it's gonna be nice to not have to like pack everything up for like a plane ride.
For sure. Well, give me a couple picks. It's a great card. Adesanya Pereira is the main event. Then you got Gilbert Burns, Masvidal, Font, Yanez. Who do you see winning those big fights?
Well, of course, I got to go with Gilbert. He's my teammate now, and not only that, but I think stylistically, he has all the tools to beat Masvidal. MMA 4 ounce gloves, everybody's got a puncher's chance, but Gilbert is just as dangerous on the feet as Masvidal is. His offensive wrestling is for sure better, and I think good enough to negate Masvidal's defensive wrestling. And obviously, his ground game, I would say, is at least a level, if not several levels above Masvidal's. And again, Masvidal's a tough guy. It's just you're talking about a guy in Gilbert Burns who's not just a jiu-jitsu black belt, but he's competed in ADCC and like really high level no gi tournaments before. That's a whole different beast. And yeah, I just don't see a way that Masvidal can win that fight. In the main event, it's tough. I feel like Izzy's gonna win, and I said that last time too. And to be fair, he was on his way to winning until the fight got stopped. And like, there's a lot of people, I won't say it was like the worst stoppage, but I've definitely seen, especially championship fights, let go when it's looked a lot worse. You know what I mean? So I'll go with Izzy again on that one. But again, they're both really good fighters. And Pereira is not only an elite level kickboxer, just like Izzy is, but he's also, and people like don't realize this maybe or don't put enough into it because he doesn't look that big, but he's freaking huge. You know what I mean? Like Izzy's a tall guy. Pereira is even taller and lankier. And he looks skinny, but he's walking around at like 230. Like that's a lot of human being walking in the cage. That's a big because Izzy's probably in the cage at close to what I'm at, like maybe around 200, fighting a guy who's literally like possibly 20 to 30 pounds more, especially if you decide to engage in grappling. That can be a huge, huge difference. But yeah, and then was it Font and Yanez? That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yanez has really, really good hands. And I would maybe argue that Yanez would be a little bit better with the combos on the inside. The problem is that he's got to get past Font's jab because Font and Kelvin Cater, both of them have really really good work at range, especially against guys that aren't as tall as them. So uh, I know Yanez trains with my boy Rafian, but I have to give a little bit of an edge to Font on that one, just based off that. And who knows? Maybe they're doing something to negate that. Maybe Yanez is just as lanky as Font is, and I just like don't realize it, but I feel like Font's taller and just that jab work's going to keep Yanez away to at least get him a decision victory.
All right, it's a great card. It really is, and a fight that I'm excited as any of the others is you and Joseph Pyfer, man. So if you go in there and you beat Pyfer, Gerald, what does that say as to where you're at in the division? Does this? I mean, I saw in a previous interview you said something to the effect of you're like a gatekeeper of the division. Does this kind of negate that and put you on the doorstep of maybe cracking the top 15?
Well, it certainly helps me get out of that role, but that would hopefully set me up for that opportunity to fight somebody with a number next to their name so I could then get out of that role. You know what I mean? And like, I don't, so let me say this. I don't think that I am a gatekeeper. I think I can be a UFC champion. I think, all I got to do is go out there and fight the best that I know I can. And, I can beat anybody in the world. You know what I mean? And especially in a sport like MMA, as much as we like to say like skills and all that stuff matter, and it does, a lot of it is chance. You know what I mean? Anybody could beat anybody on any given day, but I feel like with the skills that I have, most people, I have just as good a chance as anybody of winning a fight, a mixed martial arts contest in the UFC. Um, but the reason I said that is like if you looked, if I even look at my UFC career objectively, if you're someone who has never fought somebody ranked and always fights guys that are like the next up and coming thing or have been around for a little bit or brand new guys, that would like more or less be the definition of a gatekeeper, right? So like I'm not gonna lie to myself and act like that's not, I don't have like a hype train behind me. I'm not ranked. I've had way more than like one or two fights in the UFC, and I've got way more than one or two losses. So it's not like I'm a blue chip prospect. So that kind of narrows down the options of what you would call me, right? I'm a self-aware person and I'm okay with that. But to your point, this win would set me up, I feel, to get that next step up in competition and prove that I am in fact not a gatekeeper.
I love that answer. And with Pyfer, we saw what he did at Contender Series, and then his actual UFC debut. He had a round one finish over Alan Amedovski. What can you take from the tape that you've watched of him? How do you feel you're going to be able to exploit him in there?
I feel like I've got some stuff that he's probably never seen before, at least like, in real time in the cage. Like, you can look up on YouTube or Fight Pass or whatever and see all kinds of different styles, but it's different when you're in there with somebody, you know what I mean? Um, but he's got, he's got a lot of length and he uses it pretty well. He's got a really good hook, obviously, and a long right hand. He, kind of is an upright traditional boxing style. He likes to come forward, which is good. He's really good about giving just enough space when someone swings at him to make him miss and then taking that space back over so he can land his longer shots. So like kind of pressuring, but not getting too close. And I've seen some of his grappling matches. He's got pretty good wrestling. He's got good grappling. He comes from a school that has a lot of good grapplers. So, he's going to be tough everywhere. And I think that if I, mix it up enough and like don't fight too much in one area and just kind of keep him confused as to where I'm going and where the fight's going to go, that, it should be a pretty easy path to victory for me.
So do you feel like you're going to be able to get him out of there, or do you anticipate maybe this going to the judges?
Well, up to this point, never had a UFC win that wasn't a finish. So if I had to take a guess, I'm going to finish him.
Okay. Do you, I mean, you said that, if you do what you need to do, that you said, you have kind of an easy path to victory. Do you feel like this finishes early?
Oh, no, and when I say easy path to victory, I don't mean that, like, the fight's necessarily gonna be, like, an easy fight, like, I'm gonna go in there and get out of there unscathed. I just mean that, like, if I do what I'm supposed to do correctly, uh, you know, I should fall into a place where I have the ability to finish. Now, if I get, take a couple and get marked up on the way to get there, that might be the case. I'm hoping not to, like my last fight, I did a pretty good job of like not taking damage, but you know, sometimes you get in the kitchen, you got to get a little sauce on the apron. If I got to take a couple to give a couple, it is what it is.
All right, man. I can't wait to see you back in there, Gerald. And if you go in there, you do get this win. How active are you trying to stay here in 2023? When would the ideal next time frame be for your next fight?
If I'm healthy and everything's good, I'd like to fight in the next 3 or 4 months. You know what I mean? I want to keep the train rolling. I wanted to get 3 fights in this year. I still think that I could do that if the timing works out correctly, but we'll we can't make any rash decisions like that until the fight happens and we see how banged up I am or am not after the fight.
All right, very good. I was thinking maybe International Fight Week, early July. That might make some sense.
Yeah, no, I would definitely be down for that, especially if I've a good enough showing, get right back on another big card. That'd be amazing.
Awesome, man. Last thing for me, give me a prediction here. We got Jones and Gone for the heavyweight title tomorrow night. How do you see that shaking out?
I was just talking to Bilal and Jason Anik about this. I think John Jones is going to win. I know everyone's concerned about not even the weight difference, but the long time off. And you know, honestly, for you can tell if a guy's been training or not, right? And obviously, Jones has moved up a weight class, but it's not like he moved up a weight class and wasn't training. It would be one thing if he came back at like 205, but kind of physically looked like he does now. That would be like, oh, he hasn't been doing anything. But he has been working, and he's, kind of shown clips of him working with high level UFC heavyweights and a guy that like it's not like he took time off and was like I'm done with the sport. He took time off plotting to come back as a heavyweight. So I don't think him being out is going to be as big of a deal as people think it is, and I just think he has a few more tools at his disposal. Like Gon likes to fight at range. He likes to go low with the hands. He likes really good at that flick jab. He'll mix up kicks and elbows. But the problem is where Gon likes to do elbows on the inside, throw a lot of kicks. Jones is just as long for one. Two, when they get inside there with elbows, Jones is really good with elbows, and I think his hand fighting is better. He's got really, really good wrist control, and he can use his hand fighting not just for elbows, but for takedowns. And that's something that Gon's probably not used to. Like if you're getting taken down like that by Francis on those double legs, like Francis is a huge dude. Someone that big wraps their arm around your legs, it's hard to get out in the first place. but I don't think he's going to be ready for how it's going to seem tricky to him. How good Jones is in the clinch with those upper body takedowns and the off balancing and kind of throwing against the cage. And as soon as because he'll get I don't want to say lazy, but he'll kind of roll with stuff and then like just kind of, oh, I'm going to skate away, and people let him get away. Jones isn't going to do that. He's going to throw a spin elbow at you, or he's going to wait until you posture up like that and get really straight, and then wrap your legs up and take you down on a double leg. And I don't think Gunn's going to have the chops to get out from under John Jones.
Can't wait to watch it, man. Where are you going to be watching it? You getting together with some of the guys, or are you just doing it low key?
I don't know yet. I might just stay home and sleep. I got like a little one at home, so it's been great being able to like go to bed and sleep in and not have a kid wake up. So I might just enjoy that.
Awesome, Gerald. Well, again, always a pleasure having you on the show, my man. Best of skill come fight night. Before we do sign off, I want to kick it over to you, give you the floor. Please tell people where they can follow you on social media. If you have anyone to thank, anything to plug, the floor is yours.
I'm on Instagram and Twitter. Uh, I'm sure if you want to follow me, it's not hard to find. And shout out to Combat Corner and the UFC PI for getting me everything I needed for this camp. You guys have been great.